Hi, and welcome back to Lisa's Stamp Studio. If you were with me here on Friday, you saw a technique tip that I shared with you using regular household aluminum foil and an embossing folder. And I promised you a video for today using that exact same technique on a different card. And here it is. We're going to be using a brand new Occasions catalog stamp set. It's one for the guys, and I think you're going to love it. This technique looks fabulous on the background, not only for this project, but for many others. If you're here visiting from YouTube, you'll be able to find a link down in the description of this video below, which will lead you over to the pictures and the cutting dimensions for today's project. And while you're here, I would love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss the projects that I have coming up. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started. Here's a good close-up of the card we're going to be creating today. I did do a quick tip video last week on teaching you this embossing foil technique, but I'm going to go over it again in today's video. I'm starting with a piece of basic gray cardstock. This cardstock is going to be the base for the foil, and it will be whatever color that you choose. It does not have to be this one. It's just simply a mat for us to put the foil on. I'm using regular household aluminum foil, and I'm going to go ahead and pull myself off a piece. One side is shiny, one side is matte. It's just a matter of preference. It really doesn't matter. Just for the video today, I want to give you another option, so I'm going to use the matte side. I am going to try to flatten it out as much as I can. I want some of those wrinkles to be gone, so the actual impression of my embossing folder will be predominant. And I'm going to be using the Sparkle Embossing Folder, and I'm going to go ahead and tuck that down on top of the aluminum foil just by sliding it inside. You're going to want to make sure that the aluminum foil area is actually larger than the cardstock you're going to need to mount it on. Now there's a couple things you can do. You can cut this, but I cheat. I just come across here with the edges, and I'm going to rip this away. I've got my Big Shot platform here, and I'm going to put a clear mat on the bottom to protect it. And then I'm going to place my embossing folder on top of that and another clear mat over the top to protect the folder. And then I'm just going to crank that through. We'll open up that embossing folder, and then you'll be able to see that beautiful design now has been transferred to the aluminum foil. I'm going to bring my cardstock in, and I'm going to flip my aluminum foil over. I'm going to place my cardstock in the center. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive just to tack the foil down so it doesn't slide on me as I'm trying to wrap it. So I'm going to work mainly in the center. I find that works the best for me. And again, just a little bit. You don't want to press so hard that you actually press out the design of your foil. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start on this one end, and I'm going to pull it tautly right across the edge. Now I'll fold that little extra back so I've got my adhesive showing. And then on the other end, I'm going to wrap that as well. If you have any foil that's sticking out, just kind of bend it to the back. And then we're going to do this one here, and you're going to see this is a lot longer than I need. So I'm going to go ahead and use my fingers as a guide and rip off some of that excess just so it's not so bulky. And then I'll press that down. And then we've got one more edge here, and I'm going to work on this corner and straighten that out a little bit as well. And again, I'm pulling it because I want to make sure that this actually looks like a square. That leaves us with our embossed image. I have cut another square just slightly bigger that I'm going to mount this on to give myself a layer. Now there's a couple things that you can do. You can go ahead and add adhesive around here. It will work, or you can use tear and tape. I'm just going to use the adhesive today just because it's a lot quicker. I'm going to use small dashes. I find that that works really well for me, working in the corners. Dimensionals will work as well. And then I'm going to mount that here on my cardstock, again, leaving a little bit of frame of that black all the way around. And then I'll flip that over, and I'm rubbing, but I'm rubbing kind of gingerly. I want to make sure I don't press out that design once again. The base to my cardstock is actually going to be a small square, and I've cut it 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. So I'll fold it in half. That'll give me that square. And then I've cut myself a piece of designer series paper. I am loving this paper. This comes from the Classic Garage 6x6 designer series paper stack, and I want to show you this. Definitely one for the guys. So great patterns that you can actually cut out with your scissors or use as backgrounds. And you can see that there's quite an array of colors and designs here. Wouldn't these be great for scrapbooking for first car or driver's license? Loving the patterns. Lots of fun. This one is actually the gauges. And of course, we've got some cars here as well, some tools. Now, here's the great thing. Like almost all the Stampin' Up! Designer Series papers, they are double-sided. And do you notice how the other sides here are very generic? So these are going to work for all kinds of cards all year round. They don't have to be for masculine cards. Now, there are a few that have a bit more masculine theme, obviously like this one. And of course, this one would be great for travel. This is an amazing value to get 48 sheets of 6x6 Designer Series paper for $11. I've cut a piece that's 2 inches by 4 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my silicone craft sheet. Adhesive will not stick to this. It'll simply just rub off, which will keep my work surface nice and clean. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add adhesive to that Designer Series paper. And I'm going to bring my card base back in. And I'm going to attach this right to the center. We're going to be using the stamp set called Geared Up Garage, and this is featured in the brand new Occasions catalog that debuted on January 3rd. Now, if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you're interested in Stampin' Up! Supplies, I would be more than happy to send you a complimentary copy of this catalog as well as our annual catalog, and I'll even include our sale brochure. The products in here are absolutely free from January 3rd through March 31st with any $50 product purchase before shipping and tax. And for those of you with a large wish list, there are even items that you can redeem with a $100 product order as well. Part of the suite of these products actually includes the Designer Series paper I just showed you, plus this amazing ribbon. Now, you might not think ribbon is for guys, but I'm going to tell you what, this one certainly is. It has a metallic strip down the center and that great black edge on the outside, making it really masculine. And just like all Stampin' Up! Ribbons, you gotta love that it's double-sided so you don't have to worry about tying it. I'm actually gonna add a small loop to part of that foil embellishment we just did. So I've got a little bit more ribbon here than I need. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this a little bit shorter. I'm thinking all I need is about 2 inches. I'm gonna use a glue dot to make that loop. So I'm gonna press the end of my ribbon right on the glue dot, and then I'll lift. And then I'll go ahead and bring those raw ends together, and I'll just pinch them together. So you can see that gives me that little bit of a loop. So let's bring back that foil here. I'm going to add another glue dot to this, and that'll help to adhere it to this. And I'm actually going to place this down here near the bottom, just for a little bit of a decorative edge. It will bring out the silver from that foil quite nicely. I've cut a piece of Whisper White cardstock. This is just a small strip. And since I'm using that Designer Series paper, I'm choosing to pick up the colors that are in there. And that's the Tranquil Tide. So I've brought in the Tranquil Tide ink pad. So I'm going to open that up. And I've mounted the words All Geared Up. So I'll go ahead and ink those up. And I'm going to stamp that right here on that strip. I'm going to place my greeting over to the right side so I can add some embellishments to this end. I'm going to flip that over and I'm going to add adhesive to the back side, and we're going to mount that to that layer of aluminum foil. And I'm working right around that area of the ribbon, just tacking that in place. This stamp set can also be purchased as a bundle with the coordinating dies called the Garage Gears, and I'm loving this. The gears in here are going to create some great accents as well as die cut these images. So I've pulled out several gears from that die collection, and I've brought in my Big Shot die cutting machine, and I'm going to be using my magnetic platform. I'm a fan of that when I'm using those metal dies to help hold it in place. It is not a requirement. You can use your regular multi-purpose platform with your thin die adapter. And I'm going to be bringing in some scrap cardstock, and these coordinate with that Designer Series paper that we used. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place this larger one on the basic gray, and I've got 2 others here that I'm going to place on the scraps as well. I'll put the other clear mat over the top to protect those dies, and I'll crank those through. I'm going to use my Take Your Pick pickup tool. I just took off the protective cap to this end, and I've placed on the interchangeable paper piercing tool. The dies in some of these areas are a little bit smaller, so I find that just giving them a little gentle poke will get those pieces out. I wanted to point this out to you as well. Do you see how they're die cut as well as embossed? That really gives them a realistic look. I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to the card base. I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to use my dimensionals. I'm going to be generous with these, 1 in each of the 4 corners. I'm always aware that when I mail my cards, they're going to go through the mail meter at the post office, which has a rolling mechanism in it. And I'd like to make sure that my cards are nice and balanced so they come out looking the same on the other side. Now, if you're having trouble like me getting those dimensional backings off, let me give you a tip. Take your fingernail and press it in the center of the dimensional. That'll help lift the outside paper edges, making it a lot easier for you to get those backings off. I keep my fingernails short, so sometimes that's a challenge for me. And then I'll go ahead and adhere that over that designer series paper strip. And I'm going to start with the largest gear here first. And because it's a good size, I'm going to flip that over and I'm actually going to use a mini dimensional. Using that paper piercing tool attachment again to help me pick it up. I'm going to place that here on the back side. And I'll take off that paper backing as well. And that one is going to go here. I'm going to let it overlap a little bit since we've got plenty of room. I'm going to bring in my glue dots for this black one, and I'll place one on the back side there, and I'm going to tuck that one up underneath, making sure I don't cover up that greeting. And then last but not least, we've got this one, and you can see there really isn't much room to place a glue dot on unless you wanted to wrap it. So I'm going to choose to use my liquid glue. The multi-purpose liquid glue is very strong. You don't need a whole lot. Go ahead and get it started on your silicone craft sheet. Just like the adhesive that won't stick, this won't stick either. As this dries, you can simply rub it off. It works great with hot glue as well. And like I said, it is very strong, so you don't need a whole lot. And I'm going to tuck that one here up underneath. That'll take just less than a minute to dry. Now, last but not least, I want to show you these amazing embellishments. They're called the Classic Garage Metal Elements. You're going to find that there's little keys and also little wrenches. Absolutely am loving these. So I'm going to go ahead and use a glue dot for this, and I'm going to place that right here in the center of that wrench embellishment, and I'm going to lift. It's a hair too big, so I'm going to wrap that to the back side so that glue dot won't be visible from the front. And then I'm going to use that right across my little gear right here, and then just press that in place. So there we go. We've got our masculine card all finished. And again, like I said, once this dries, you'll be able to rub that right off. Here's the one we created today, the one I created before you joined me. And if you missed last Friday's technique video with this embossed aluminum foil technique, this is the card that I showcased then. This is from the designer series paper that I shared with you just a few minutes ago. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time. I hope you have a great day.